Have you ever heard of an investment that promised endless riches, only to destroy the lives of its investors? In the 1700s, one company convinced an entire nation to chase the dream of wealth, only to reveal it was all based on lies. This is the story of the South Sea Bubble, the world's first major financial scam that still holds lessons for us today. In 1720, a company known as the South Sea Company captured the imagination of the British public. It promised unprecedented profits through exclusive trading rights with South America, and people from all walks of life, aristocrats, merchants, and even scientists like Isaac Newton, rushed to invest. The company's shares soared, turning it into one of the first major stock market frenzies in history. But what seemed like the opportunity of a lifetime turned into one of the biggest financial disasters of all time. Today we're diving into how this bubble was created, why it burst, and the timeless lessons it offers for modern investors. The South Sea Company was established in 1711 during a period of economic uncertainty in Britain. The country was grappling with an enormous national debt accrued during the War of Spanish Succession. To address this financial burden, the British government struck a bold and unprecedented deal with the newly formed South Sea Company. In exchange for exclusive trade rights to South America, the company would assume a significant portion of the national debt. Essentially, the government would convert its debt into shares of the company, allowing creditors to exchange their government bonds for equity in the South Sea Company. This arrangement served two purposes. It reduced the government's financial liabilities while promising investors a stake in what was perceived to be a highly lucrative venture. The deal gave the South Sea Company an air of credibility and stability. After all, if the government was backing it, how could it fail? Investors were drawn to the company's promise of immense profits from trade with South America, a region romanticized in the public imagination as a land of untold wealth. Gold, silver, spices, and exotic goods. However, this promise had a glaring flaw. The South Sea Company's exclusive trade rights were largely symbolic. At the time, South America was under the control of Spain, and Britain had minimal access to the region's trade networks. Despite these obstacles, the company's directors cleverly marketed the venture as the investment opportunity of a lifetime. They painted vivid pictures of bustling ports filled with British ships returning with treasures, further enticing the public's imagination. By 1720, the South Sea Company's directors had devised an even grander plan. They proposed to take on even more of Britain's national debt in exchange for issuing new shares. This bold move required approval from Parliament, which was granted with little resistance. Parliament itself had members heavily invested in the company, creating a conflict of interest that added to the bubble's momentum. With government endorsement, the company's stock began to soar. What followed was a speculative frenzy like Britain had never seen before. The idea of exotic trade ventures captured the public's imagination, and rumors of unimaginable riches began circulating. The directors of the South Sea Company, eager to capitalize on the excitement, spread exaggerated claims about the company's future profitability. They engaged in tactics that would be considered outright market manipulation today, such as lending money to investors to buy more shares and bribing influential figures to promote the company's success. At the start of 1720, the price of South Sea shares was already impressive at £100 per share, but it quickly escalated to dizzying heights. By mid-year, shares were trading for over £1,000, a tenfold increase in just a few months. The allure of these rapid gains drew in people from all walks of life. The wealthy aristocracy, merchants, and even common laborers poured their money into the company, fearing they would miss out on what seemed like a guaranteed path to riches. Ordinary citizens were swept up in the hysteria. People mortgaged their homes, sold their businesses, and emptied their life savings to buy shares. Many borrowed heavily, convinced that the skyrocketing prices would allow them to repay their debts and walk away wealthy. Coffeehouses, the informal hubs of financial news at the time, buzzed with speculation about the South Sea Company. The stock's meteoric rise became the central topic of conversation in Britain, and the company's directors fueled this mania by issuing more shares at higher prices, further inflating the bubble. The feverish enthusiasm wasn't limited to the financial elite. Servants, small shopkeepers, and even clergy members scraped together funds to participate. A sense of collective euphoria gripped the nation. If the South Sea Company was backed by the government, how could it fail? People viewed shares not as speculative investments but as a sure path to financial security and prosperity. The South Sea Company became the ultimate status symbol. Investors boasted about their newfound wealth, and many dreamed of retiring early, confident that the company's trade ventures would provide endless dividends. Stories of overnight millionaires stoked the public's desire to invest, creating a self-reinforcing cycle where rising stock prices attracted more buyers, which in turn drove prices even higher. By the height of the mania, the South Sea Company was not just an investment, it was a cultural phenomenon. People believed they were witnessing the dawn of a new era of prosperity, one that would reshape Britain's economy. Few stopped to question the feasibility of the company's trade claims or the lack of tangible results. Instead, the promise of easy money blinded them to the growing fragility of the situation. As the summer of 1720 progressed, the bubble expanded to unsustainable levels, setting the stage for one of the most devastating financial collapses in history. The South Sea Company had become the talk of the town, but beneath the surface the foundations of the frenzy were built on little more than hope, hype, and deception. Behind the dazzling facade of the South Sea Company's success lay an uncomfortable truth. Its promises were nothing more than smoke and mirrors. While the company claimed to hold exclusive trading rights to South America, the reality was that these rights were largely symbolic. At the time, South America was controlled by Spain, and Britain's access to its trade routes was severely restricted by political and military tensions. The company's directors had exaggerated its trading potential, knowing full well that their claims were nearly impossible to fulfill. Despite this, the South Sea Company continued to thrive, not through actual trade but through a masterful campaign of deception and speculation. Its directors inflated the stock price by issuing new shares at ever higher valuations. They extended loans to investors, allowing them to purchase additional shares, which further drove up demand. Meanwhile, rumors of extraordinary profits and untapped wealth were carefully planted in public discourse, creating a sense of urgency and inevitability. Investors believed the stock could only go up, and for a time, it seemed they were right. But by late 1720, cracks in the illusion began to form. As the stock price climbed to over £1,000 per share, some investors started to question the company's actual performance. Where were the profits from the much-hyped South American trade? Why were there no dividends being paid out despite the supposed success? Skepticism grew, and a few savvy individuals decided to sell their shares while prices were still high. The initial wave of selling was enough to trigger panic among other investors. As word spread that insiders and wealthy shareholders were cashing out, more people rushed to follow suit. In an instant, the tide of speculation turned. The frenzied optimism that had driven the stock price to astronomical levels gave way to fear and desperation. Investors who had borrowed heavily to buy shares suddenly faced the terrifying reality of losing everything. The once mighty South Sea Company was revealed to be a house of cards. As the selling accelerated, the stock price plummeted, collapsing in mere weeks. From its peak of over £1,000 per share, the value of South Sea stock fell to nearly nothing, wiping out fortunes overnight. The bubble had burst, leaving thousands of investors financially ruined. The collapse reverberated across all levels of British society, as everyone from aristocrats to commoners had poured their savings into the company, convinced it was a surefire path to wealth. Even Isaac Newton, one of history's greatest minds, was not immune to the mania. Newton had initially invested early and wisely, making a substantial profit. However, as the stock price continued to climb, he couldn't resist the temptation to reinvest, confident he could make even greater gains. When the bubble burst, Newton lost the equivalent of $4 million in today's money, a devastating blow to his finances and his pride. Reflecting on his loss, he famously remarked, "I can calculate the motions of heavenly bodies, but not the madness of people." The aftermath was nothing short of catastrophic. Countless investors were left bankrupt, their dreams of wealth shattered. Families who had mortgaged their homes or sold their businesses found themselves destitute. The broader economy suffered as the South Sea Company's collapse triggered widespread financial instability. Small businesses closed, unemployment rose, and the public's faith in the financial system was deeply shaken. Investigations into the South Sea Company's collapse revealed a staggering level of corruption and greed. The company's directors had enriched themselves while misleading the public, and even members of parliament were found to have been complicit in the fraud. The scandal led to public outrage and demands for accountability, resulting in legal actions against some of the company's executives. However, many of the victims received little to no compensation for their losses, leaving them to bear the brunt of the disaster. The South Sea Bubble stands as one of history's most infamous examples of speculative mania, a cautionary tale about the dangers of greed, overconfidence, and the allure of easy money. Its collapse left a lasting mark on Britain's financial landscape, and serves as a stark reminder that markets driven by speculation are destined to fail when they lack a foundation of real value. The collapse of the South Sea Bubble rocked Britain to its core, leaving behind a trail of financial ruin and shattered lives. People who had once considered themselves wealthy, with fortunes built on the soaring value of South Sea Company shares, were suddenly destitute. Entire families faced ruin as homes, businesses, and life savings were wiped out almost overnight. The bubble's burst not only devastated individual investors but also rippled through the broader economy. Commerce slowed, credit dried up, and a sense of despair gripped the nation. The fallout extended far beyond financial losses. The South Sea Bubble undermined public trust in financial institutions and exposed the fragility of speculative markets. For many, it was their first encounter with the concept of a market bubble, and the psychological toll was profound. Investors who had been swept up in the frenzy were left questioning how they had been so thoroughly deceived, while those who had stayed on the sidelines wondered if they could trust financial markets at all. The collective disillusionment with the financial system planted seeds of skepticism that would linger for generations. As the dust settled, the scale of corruption behind the South Sea Company's rise became painfully clear. Investigations revealed that the company's directors had engaged in blatant fraud to inflate the value of its shares. They had bribed influential politicians, including members of parliament, to secure favorable legislation and promote the company's legitimacy. Some government officials had even used their insider knowledge to sell their own shares at peak prices, profiting handsomely while ordinary investors were left holding worthless stock. The public outcry was swift and furious. Calls for justice echoed across Britain, demanding accountability for the company's directors and the politicians who had been complicit in the scam. Several high-ranking individuals were prosecuted, including John Aislabi, the Chancellor of the Exchequer, who had played a pivotal role in facilitating the company's schemes. Aislabi was forced to resign in disgrace and later imprisoned. Other directors of the South Sea Company faced severe penalties, including asset seizures and public humiliation. To provide some restitution to the victims, the government seized what remained of the company's assets and distributed them to those who had lost money. However, these efforts were far from sufficient to cover the enormous losses. Many victims received only a fraction of their initial investments, while others received nothing at all. The compensation process was slow and fraught with controversy, deepening the sense of betrayal felt by the public. The South Sea Bubble became a defining cautionary tale in the history of financial markets. It highlighted the dangers of speculative investing, particularly when fueled by greed and blind trust in institutions. The disaster also prompted changes in Britain's financial regulations, as lawmakers sought to prevent a similar catastrophe in the future. One of the most significant outcomes was the passage of the Bubble Act in 1720, which imposed stricter controls on the formation of joint stock companies. While the act was intended to curb speculative excesses, it also stifled legitimate financial innovation for decades. Despite these reforms, the lessons of the South Sea Bubble were not fully heeded. The human tendency to chase quick riches and the allure of speculative investments would lead to countless similar episodes throughout history, from the Mississippi Bubble in France to the dot-com bubble of the 1990s. Even today, the story of the South Sea Bubble serves as a reminder of the critical importance of due diligence, diversification, and skepticism in investing. In the end, the collapse of the South Sea Company was not just a financial disaster but a profound social and cultural event. It revealed the vulnerabilities of an emerging financial system and the perils of unbridled speculation. The scandal also underscored the corrosive effects of corruption and greed at the highest levels of power. While Britain eventually recovered from the crisis, the South Sea Bubble left an indelible mark on its history, shaping the way people viewed markets, trust, and the pursuit of wealth. Now let's talk about the lessons we can learn from this 300-year-old disaster. 1. Beware of hype. If everyone is talking about a once-in-a-lifetime investment opportunity, approach with caution. Hype often overshadows the actual value of an asset. 2. Do your research. Don't rely solely on promises or the reputation of a company. Dig deep into the fundamentals to understand where the profits are coming from. 3. Avoid putting all your eggs in one basket. Diversification is key. Many South Sea investors bet everything they had and were left with nothing. 4. Market mania is timeless. Whether it's the South Sea bubble, the dot-com bubble, or the cryptocurrency craze, human behavior in markets hasn't changed. Emotional investing can lead to disaster. The South Sea bubble reminds us that the promise of easy wealth often comes at a high price. It's a lesson in skepticism, patience, and the importance of sound financial planning. So, the next time you hear about an investment that sounds too good to be true, remember? Bubbles burst, but your financial future doesn't have to. What do you think? Do you see parallels between the South Sea bubble and today's speculative markets? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more stories that bring financial history to life.